Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. In this series of videos, I'm going to be unboxing, building, tuning, and racing the Xray X1 1/10 scale Formula One RC car. Xray calls their cars luxury RC kits, and they definitely are at the high end of what's available. They have some of the best materials, some of the best design practices, and they really produce phenomenal cars. That's all they make. They don't dabble in airplanes and 101 other things. They race cars, and they have a tremendous number of championships to prove it. They've won one world championship in F1. I'll go over their stats later. I can't get them all off the top of my head for you, but because they're very numerous. There are so many ways that you can tune this car. Right off the bat, there's an optional chassis available. It's the same thickness, but it's a thicker or a stiffer grade of carbon fiber. All of these changes are designed to give you better or different traction levels on different types of surfaces. And they graphically provide all of this information along with all the options on their website. I'll put a link down below here in the description. It is probably the best website I've ever seen for any type of radio control airplane or car. They give you more information than anybody, a tremendous amount of comparative information. For example, the last year's model or the last generation, how this part of the car worked, and then what the new one does different, with graphics and visual comparisons, as well as descriptive text to tell you various charts that show you if you change the layout of screws on this particular bracket or stiffener piece, this is for lower traction or higher traction or mid traction, longer or shorter, tighter or looser tracks. For example, the entire front suspension from its standard mounting position can be moved 4 millimeters forward or 4 millimeters backward. That gives you an 8 millimeter range of the change in the wheelbase of the vehicle. So if you're on a tight indoor carpet track, you can really shorten up the car and make it very good for twisty turns. And if you're on a big outdoor track, it's also, running 1/8 scale cars as well. And you've got a lot of room to run, a lot of big sweeping turns. You can run the full length wheelbase and set up the car for that good straight line stability. Progressive shocks. I mean, so many different changes that you can make, and most of them are included with the kit. There's a few things that are optional to buy, but for example, I tend to run on asphalt, and it tends to be lower traction environment. It's rough asphalt, a lot of debris. This type of year we've got pollen, and that really makes the track slippy. And being able to go to the extreme on all the settings for lowest level of traction really is going to help my car and give me an advantage. So as I build the kit, I'm going to show you all of these different options, and again, go to their website and take a look. You'll be just blown away by the amount of information that they provide with their kits. They also are reported to have the best tech support that there is. They have their own database for setup sheets. You can actually communicate with people at the company and some of their their sponsored racers. You can ask questions about handling, suspension changes, things like that, and get direct feedback. You have to be a car owner, but that's one of the benefits of buying in. And they are more expensive than most, but not by a tremendous amount. I think what you get is definitely worth the money, or at least I hope it is. This is my first Xray. I have a second one that I'm going to be also building. I bought their new 21, the T4 touring car, and as you may know, I recently built a 3 racing touring car for VTA. I'm building this one for USGT, which is a slightly faster motor. It's a faster class. It's more of a modern sports car type of body versus the older muscle cars for VTA. So that should be really exciting and a lot of fun. And again, that car also has just a tremendous amount of tunability. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. And I hope you guys enjoy all these videos and follow them. So here is our X1, nice small kit. And go. Certificate of authenticity with serial number and verification key. This is probably what you need to be able to use their web portal. Xray is supposed to have outstanding technical support, and they have a customer-only web portal that gives you access to setup information, all kinds of documentation on the kits. It also, they are supposed to give you email contact with their team drivers and or tech support people to help you set up your car or answer any technical related questions you may have. So as most kits, everything is set up into different numbered bags. Got a lot of carbon fiber here. And they list some of the items that are in here. This looks like front end suspension parts, front shock parts. They give us several different kinds of, let's see, it's different. One may be shock fluid, one may be something else. They give us some special diff grease. We even know who packaged it. This is our rear axle and diff parts. Chassis pieces. This is the rear pod parts. More small pieces of hardware. Have our front wings. There's two of them. One for higher downforce, one for lower level of downforce. Front bumper onto which these attach. There's also other types of wings available as option parts. Here's our rear wing. It's all one piece. There are other wings available that are multi-level and have adjustable pieces, like the top surface can be angled to 3 different positions to provide more or less downforce. Again, more carbon fiber. Here's all of our bearings. Not a lot of them. Formula One cars don't have a lot of bearings, no big transmissions to deal with, and they even give us a caged bearing for the thrust bearings, but I'm not going to be using those because I'm not going to be using the ball diff. I'll explain in a moment. Here is our chassis. As I mentioned, they give us 3 locations for our front suspension. So the center hole is the more neutral setup. Long tracks, lots of long straightaways, lots of big sweepers. You can move the suspension forward to the 3rd hole. Short, tight tracks, indoor carpet, lots of switchbacks and such. You can move the suspension to the rear hole and make the car more nimble and handle tighter. So that's a really nice option to have. I've heard very good things about the instruction manual. Let's have a quick peek in there, and then I will go over the various items that I'm going to be using in my assembly. This is a really thick book here for such a simple car. As Formula Ones are very simple as RC cars go. They don't have, you know, the 3 differentials of a all-wheel drive vehicle. We have a few stickers here. Here we have a large parts list for the X1. We have color. They recommend using CA along the edge. This is a very nice little piece of info that I've never seen a manufacturer provide. I may actually start doing this on all my carbon chassis. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. They say take some fine sandpaper and sand smooth the edges of the graphite parts, and then use a little bit of I would recommend very thin CA for this, and just go around the edge and seal those parts up so they don't delaminate on you. Directions look really nice. Everything is numbered. We got a big blow up of the front suspension, and then they take us through assembly step by step. X-Rays are one of the most adjustable cars that of any of the manufacturers that I've seen. They provide so many different options. Like there's 2 different A-arms available. I bought the extra set. Those are a thinner A-arm. I'll show you during the build process. I'm running outdoors on rather slippery pavement, and especially at this time of the year with all the pollen, it's very low traction, so I'm going for options and setup options for low traction. For example, because it's we also race the 8th scale cars at our club, the 8th scale GT cars. We tend to have big layouts and a lot of big sweepers. We also have some tight turns, but not tight from the point of view of a 1/10 scale F1. So I am probably going to go with the center or forward mounting for the front suspension. I may go forward right off the bat and just see how that goes. You see, like right here, they tell you all the option parts that are available for that particular item and what they do for you. Like right here, they're explaining the front camber setup with these different pills here that adjust that setting. They list all their oils here for these shafts. See, like here, right here, the tip. For high grip, use softer oils. For low grip or asphalt, use harder oils. And they give us all of the options that they have available. So you can just look up a part number and order what you need. They've got all their springs. And we have a big blow-up diagram of the rear suspension with all the part numbers. And we step in piece by piece. Everything's in color, very high detail. It's fantastic. Now these guys here, they're not shock absorbers. It's kind of like a shock absorber in that there's no spring, but it's a damper. It's basically like a friction tube, and you have some oil in there. I am not going to be using the rear ones. I have a multi-directional or bi-directional shock absorber that they make for this car, and I'm going to go ahead and use that. See, here's another one of the many tuning features. You have these braces here along the side of the chassis, and you can choose to use them or not, and depending on if you do use them, how many screws you use will also determine how stiff it is. I need to pause for a moment. Okay, as I was talking about this, they really give you a tremendous amount of information. The no braces option, recommended for low to medium traction, carpet, as well as asphalt. The 2 braces with the front holes unused. This is a setting good compromise between mechanical grip and steering response, ideal for most conditions. And then all 3 holes being used. Recommended for high traction carpet such as US black carpet. The car will have less roll but will also have less overall grip. This is the stiffest, most stable setting. So they really give you a tremendous amount of tuning information. If you are not good at tuning or haven't really developed the skill set yet and you're trying to learn, these kits are more expensive, but I mean, you're getting what you pay for. You know, just having access to that website, for example, is going to be a huge resource, especially for beginners. I went with the gear diff kit, which is an option. They have several different differential setups. The nice thing about the ball diff is that unlike the Tamiya F104 that I've been running, the standard diff ball diff only has 8 ball bearings, and that's not a lot of points of contact when you're talking, you know, the size of the diff rings. These ball diffs have 12. They also have a ceramic option and they have a ceramic caged option, but right out of the box you get a very nice ball diff with a caged bearing setup for the thrust bearing. I prefer gear diffs. That's just me. I like being able to tune with different levels of fluid. Again, you know, a preference thing. They definitely recommend the gear diff. It's a more expensive setup, and that's why they don't ship it with its stock. I'll find you the info on why they recommend it, but it is a better option. And as you can see, they mention it and provide the general information about its availability. There is an optional graphite rear axle for the gear diff and for the rear axle shaft. I don't believe that I have the graphite for the gear diff. I don't think the kit comes with it. I don't know for sure. I'll let you know. It looks like it is a hollow metal axle, but that's also nice that it's going to be lighter than a stock steel axle on a lot of F1 cars where it's just a solid bar, and that's a lot of weight. They also, interestingly enough, have a solid axle setup, so you're running a locked rear. That might be interesting for certain types of conditions. It might be good for what I'm dealing with the lower traction. That way you don't have any diff action. You don't have to worry about one tire spinning up on you, because power always goes to the wheel with the least traction. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to go with gearings, gear diff, so that I could go with a thicker oil and you know, hopefully have better overall traction. They just provide a tremendous amount of detail. It's amazing. Another interesting thing they have, I think I mentioned this in my intro, is the progressive shock system. They have these inserts that you use with a special piston they provide, and the sleeve kind of has a like a 3 cutaways, like a parabolic arc. And so the lower the piston is, the more fluid slides through. The piston doesn't have holes. The fluid goes around the sides of the piston, and the closer it gets to the top of the arc, you know, the tighter that the 2 sides of the arc are, the closer they are to each other, the less fluid moves. So you get more resistance in the piston the higher the piston goes, and that, you know, gives you a progressive level of resistance. It's very interesting, and I may look into that at some point. Very detailed description on shock setup and assembly. Really good graphic instructions on bleeding. There's also 2 different shock positionings. You can have a short shock or a longer one that anchors at a different location, and of course they're gonna explain in detail what the difference is between the 2. We have a whole bunch of height adjustments for the rear wing. And the interesting thing is there's actually a frame on the rear, so the wing mounts to the chassis, not to the rear pod with the rear axle. So the wheels move independent. The rear axle moves independent of the wing. The wing is pushing down on the chassis itself. It's very, very innovative design. Here they describe the optional adjustable wings, which I believe I have at least one of from my my other Formula One car, because the wing mounts on Formula One cars, particularly the rears, are almost universal. You can almost take any manufacturer's rear wing and put it on any other Formula One car. We've got battery mounting options. Here's our front wing options as well. And some note areas. I'm sure that I can go online and download a setup sheet, a blank setup sheet, and I will definitely be signing up for my support membership. So that's just a beautiful set of instructions. I apologize if I went a little long going through the instruction book, but I think you can see that this would be a very nice car if you were in the market, and that is one of the big benefits. So, what am I adding to this kit? Well, I already told you about the rear gear differential kit to replace the stock ball diff. That's this kit here, 374901. And in case I didn't mention it already, this is the 2021 model. Xray seems to iterate their cars on a fairly regular basis. They do a lot of improvements, and their pro drivers, the things they develop and the things the factory develops and you know, run down to their pros, ends up going out to the public very quickly. This is the body that came with the kit. It did not come in the box, but it did come with the kit. As you can see, it's already got a helmet in there, so you don't need to worry about buying a separate plastic helmet. You just need to paint that all up, cut it out. They do have another body option that was their world champion body. I bought the optional roll bar. There's basically 2 grades of front roll bar, so I got the other one. This is one of, let me give you the part number there, 372482. This is one of the 2 front suspension arms. The other one was coming separately. It's should be here in a day or two. 372115. Those will make for a softer front end. Here is the bi-directional rear shock absorber that is going to take the place of those friction tubes. 378100. This is my receiver, just a standard receiver from my FlySky. I am going to be running a Reefs servo. It's the 299 LP. Very small. It's a very short servo, and it's very quick. I believe the speed is 0.06. I don't have those stats off the top of my head right. Let me see what we got here. Okay, torque speed. At max voltage, 0.057 seconds. That's at 8.4 volts. At 7.4 volts, it's 0.06 seconds. And at regular 6 volts, it is 0.07. So one of the fastest servos out there, definitely. So as you can see, nice and small, all metal, metal gears. So that's going to be very nice servo for this kit. I'm running, you need to have a blinky, so I didn't need a fancy speed control. I have been going with Hobbywing a lot because I've been going with Hobbywing a lot, so why not keep going? It doesn't have to be a fancy speed control since it needs to be blinky, so I might as well get one that already works with the programming boxes I have. This is the 10BL60. It's about $50. So, you know, why not? This is where a little more of the money went that I saved on this. This is one of the Certified Plus motors by RevTech. It's about as close as you can get to a factory, you know, race car driver's motor. They run about $180 versus $100 for a normal 17 point or normal 21.5 motor. They basically take the top 4% of the best components that come off the line. They even give you a little status sheet that it was, you know, certified, what the rotor strength was, what the motor speed and RPMs was during testing, 17,112. They basically give you the rotors and stators with the least internal resistance, strongest magnets, whatever, you know. It's basically a hand-picked motor. It's hand balanced and tuned and adjusted to give you the best performance possible for the money. So I've become quite a fan of these. I've got one of their certified motors in my VTA car, and it is definitely a performer. So definitely wanted to get another one of these. They can be hard to find in stock, so definitely get on the waiting list for 2 or 3 different vendors if you want one, and as soon as you get that email, jump on it, because these can sell out within an hour. You know, like I said, every part of this is hand-picked. They're always testing the parts as they come off the line, because everything is a little different. Each one, you know, sometimes there's just a, you know, that finger of God comes down and says, bingo, you know, that is a really nice rotor. And you know, the top ones are of course going to their drivers. I remember back in the day, people would buy, you know, dozens of motors and take them apart and test them. And, you know, I guess if you've got the money and you're, you know, whatever. But this allows you to kind of get that kind of a motor where, you know, it's almost as good as what a factory driver would have at almost twice the price of a regular motor. So it's up to you. Do as you wish. I'm really happy with the performance I've been getting out of these motors, so I am really happy to spend the extra money for where I've been running these cars. So that is it for the unboxing process. I'm going to go ahead and start the build in the next video, and you'll get to see, you know, every nut and bolt as the car goes together, and I'll cover the shock builds on these and discuss everything as it goes, show you any interesting items and or pitfalls to watch out for. I don't expect to have any issues with the quality that they seem to put into these X-Ray kits. I'm always going to, you know, experiment and review other kits, but having looked at some of their cars and the tuning available for them, for my personal racing tastes, when I'm building a car to go to the track and race, X-Ray is going to be one of my, at the top of the list of cars that I choose from. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.